and welcome to the next stage of Pickems. This is for the champion stage this time, right? And right in front of us, I've got the game client, and as you can see, the rules are laid out quite clearly. Got to get two correct Pickems for the quarterfinals, one correct in the semi, and make the correct prediction for the grand finals. Now, as you can see, there's quite a lot of different teams that have made it to this stage. The last stage, I imagine a lot of people's Pickems went awry. We'll talk about mine at the end of the end of this bit. We'll start from the top, ignoring the lovely motorbike out back. And I think first up, we'll pick outsiders. Now, Fnatic, I doubted. Good effort. They did actually pretty good to get through. They went through with a 3-1 record. However, this is where you run up against a team that they're just grindy bastards. They take it real slow. They have their own style that is horrible to watch. It'll be an interesting matchup for these two teams to play against each other. You've got experience on both sides. Crims holding up all the experience basically for Fnatic, but you've got some nice pieces there. But I think a team like Outsiders, they are tough to beat. They grind out matches. They've been through these parts before, and I reckon they'll make a semi-finals performance here. It's a very similar story to our next matchup, which is Cloud9 versus Mouse. Cloud9 are going to move on. My last section, I didn't say I had faith in Cloud9 because I thought certain pieces weren't showing up, namely Axar. If you look at their run, it is legit. When you look at it on paper, they beat FaZe, Navi, and Heroic. Those are some of the top contenders for this event. And as you'll see later, one of the best contenders in the event. Now, FaZe Clan, shocking 0-3, but a massive overperformance by Nafny on that. I can't see that happening again. Axel came back through in spades in the last two matches, including the best of three versus Heroic, which was a 2-0 win for them. Good effort for them. It's not quite there. They're going to need more from him if they want to go deep in this tournament. I think they have the ability to do so. I think they could probably be outsiders, but we'll come back to that in a second. Mouse Sports, which is the opponent for Cloud9, there's always a possibility they could make it to the quarterfinals, but I wasn't expecting them to make the run that they did. I thought some of the other teams that I predicted to make it to the Legend stage, and as you could probably tell aren't here, the teams like FaZe and Vitality, I thought that they would have, and Liquid as well. These kind of squads, they could trip up to a mouse. I just never really expected it to happen. And if it was going to happen, I thought it would be in the quarterfinals where they will trip up to those teams. At the end of the day, those teams didn't make it here. They've drawn Cloud9. It's one of the toughest draws they could have got. And unfortunately, I think that's where their run ends. I've really enjoyed watching them. I'm looking forward to see that team just grow and grow and grow. I hope Mouse Sports make some great sales off the back of this. Reinvest that money into their projects. And at the end of the day, that the whole Mal's and Mal's NXT stuff is really that's the future of Counter Strike is seeing those type of players and those teams develop, sell on their players, move on. Talking about teams with lots of talent on there, Team Spirit, who are going up against Heroic. Team Spirit is another one who I didn't really speak about through my predictions. I never really am sure. There was some drama that was related to one of their players, Wonderful, that was covered by Richard Lewis in the latest mishaps and mishandling over by Isik. However, he has a great article series on it that I won't delve into, but just go look at Richard Lewis's articles. I think there's like 3 parts, including one specifically on Wonderful, who is the author of this lineup. He replaced Dexter, who went over to OG, who didn't make it this far. Now, Team Spirit managed to get to the semi-finals last major, and they look like they might be primed to do it again if they weren't up against Heroic. Heroic are a team that we all expected to get to the quarterfinal. You just never had the faith that they would do it cleanly. They got here with a 3-1 record. They lost to Cloud9, who's on the other end of the bracket for them. They beat Liquid and Fnatic and Outsiders. Absolutely smashed at Fnatic, by the way, 16-2. Versus Spirit, however, it's very tempting to pick Spirit here to get through to the semi-finals. Mainly because there's a certain youthful vigor around this team, which I think could get them there again. Heroic are also another squad where I think in my earliest predictions I said quarters or semi-finals depending on a draw. Now, I'm going to pick a risky one here because I think one of these quarterfinals have to go wrong. And if it's not going to be Fnatic taking Outsiders, I think it might be Spirit taking down Heroic. It would be very safe just to pick Heroic, but at the end of the day, I've got nothing to lose, so fuck it. Furia versus Navi, on the other hand, another team who have nothing to lose, is Fury, who got through 3-0 in the last stage. That was crazy for me. They looked like along with the rest of the Brazilian lineups, they were really struggling with the crowd. Even though they were cheating their asses off, they were really struggling with the crowd backing them all the way. We've seen this many times, especially in the later years when Heroic has been playing against Astralis in those blast tournaments over in Copenhagen, where sometimes the crowd can work against you. And the rest of the Brazilian teams looked like that was happening. Well, what a way to come through 3-0 through to their group. Unlucky, however, to pull Narcissus Vincere. Now the out and out tournament favourites for the entire thing. We have Simple in position to win himself another major, and honestly, if you look at the field, it would be considered an extreme upset if they didn't make it worse, in fact, than FaZe not being here. Honestly, so let's start there. Versus Team Spirit, local rivals. Team Spirit infamously dragged FaZe right to a third match. I was actually there watching it in Belgium. It was fantastic, but I don't think they're going to get past Navi. There's, honestly, I know they've been super shaky. I mean, I can't even like float a risky pick here by putting Spirit here. At the end of the day, I want to get them here because I think Navi are probably going to win no matter who they play. But at the end of the day, Navi, better team, better players, more experienced, better odds. On the top side, Cloud9 versus Outsiders. Now, doesn't this just say something about the state of North American and European Counter-Strike at the end of the day? Teams that were in such a messy place at the start of the year due to restrictions, due to the ongoing war across Ukraine and Russia. I have here in my quarterfinals all teams from the CIS region. What a hotbed for talent. And now, no longer just streaky talent, but organized talent with strategies and tactics and players who play bitch roles super fucking well. You've got experience up and down. You look at that Outsiders lineup, you've got players like Kickhurt, who was at one point a starish fragger. CIS teams that were just knocking about and fucking up your runs. Well, now, look at this. All in the quarterfinals and all through to the semifinals for me. Outsiders play a very specific, grindy Counter-Strike. That doesn't work as well when you play into Cloud9, who have certain aspects to their team that make them unique. They have a passive AWPer who just hits all his shots, Shiro, and he is in a rich vein of form. Now, Axel has not been in the top form that you would need to carry him to a major title. However, he's building up slowly. He could have a warm-up match versus Mouse Sports here, and if he hits 80%, I think that's good enough for them to pip Outsiders in this semi-final. Mainly because Nathani's style relies a lot on gamble stacks. Yeah, he gathers information and then he just tries to get as many of his bods on one side of the map. Outsiders take a lot of time, and on the CT side, like to save a bunch. If you can get a decent CT side run on the Cloud9 side, excuse the burp, I'm not going to edit that one out. A decent set of CT rounds on the Cloud9 side, I think you can edge out a T side of its Outsiders. Outsiders have Fame and Norbert. They kind of look like caged animals let out into the field for the first time, because every time they get a strap of like space, they just want to take it. They want to eat it all up. And sometimes they make risky plays. They go 1-for-1, but there's not often someone there to trade. Nor is there like a huge reaction to cover the gap or fill the space behind them. And that's an issue because James, if he loses two players on Inferno, he's not going to, if it's on Inferno Banana, he's not going to try and come back in, no matter how much damage you do, because he considers it to be unconfirmed. So if you're an aggressive rifler trying to break out the chains, you kind of get fucked within the system currently. And now that could be just inexperience on the side of these players. I mean, Norbert's been around for a little while, but he's never really tested himself at this kind of level. And then you've got Fame as well, who's another player who, every time you watch him, he just looks like he wants to run. And perhaps the current way that they're set up is a tad too restrictive on these players who just want to let loose. It also could be, as I said, new people nerves, just trying to make as much impact as possible. And this is why I think Cloud9, who have been here, they've been building up and building up, building up. They're going to edge this one out. Now, Cloud9 coming over against Navi, I'd love to entertain the fact that Cloud9 could do it. I think they've been half decent but wishy-washy at the same time. You really need to have an top level performance from Axel, and perhaps a run through Mouse and Outsiders could be enough warm up time for him to come into his own ready for the final. but I feel like it's just a little bit too far. And that's why I'll be selecting Navi, and I imagine a lot of other people will be as well. So that's the end of my pickums. I just want to shout out my lovely commenters in my last video. I got two comments here, these two bods, and they commented halfway through the major actually just to come in to say some things. And look, I love comments. Yeah, they help me at the end of the day, and I will interact with them. This time I've chosen to interact with them in the end of this video. Cause shout out to this guy here. My pickums are in the bin. He was right. There was still an outside chance at the time that he put the message, but at the end of the day, mouse sports couldn't be outsiders. They very often struggle to do so. So if that becomes a semi-final matchup, outsiders will be taking over a trip to the final if it comes outsiders versus mouse. Shout out. I'd love to go and see his pickums. Unfortunately, he didn't show me those, which is a shame, and his YouTube channel didn't have an uploaded video of it. This bloke here, whose name is Shady Dubs. Shout out Shady Dubs. He did do a pickums video. Good effort. Unfortunately, he said, "Here's an L for not picking Cloud9." Cloud9, who I've just chose to get to the finals, by the way. So maybe I'll take an L on that. Unfortunately, his pickums didn't go to plans either. As you can see, I got a bit fucked on mine because I thought FaZe could do it. I trusted Vitality, Liquid, Ents, Nip. Nip, by the way, going out 0-3, same with FaZe Clan, and Ents and Liquid failing on the last day, Vitality going up 3-1, an absolute fucking shocker. This will build into another video I will probably do on the back of the seeding. I said in my last video, I think the seeding was a pile of shit. Actually, I think I said it's a pile of wank, and many other pundits across the esports space have also come to the same conclusion that the seeding was fucking terrible, and especially when FaZe Clan went out, there was um, a lot of uproar over the fact that they had to play a bunch of tough fucking teams. I think, yeah, FaZe had Cloud9, and then was it Vitality they played, and then they got knocked out to Bad News Eagles, which, man, that fucking sucks as well. It feels like getting knocked out by Gamer Legion for G2. Feels undeserved. Feels like they didn't get the benefits of what their status holds. There's a lot of questions around how the seedings. They're using the Buchholz system or whatever, which is why in the first stage, Sprout had like a Sprout came into this stage with like a super high ranking for some reason. Yeah, it's a bit fucking weird. It's a bit fucking weird. Anyway, that's that for this video. Thanks for the comments on the last video, guys. I appreciate it. Sorry I've ripped into you. I'm not sorry, actually, because I won't be anywhere going, hold this L for not picking Cloud9, because as you can see here, I've just put them in my finals. So, feel free to head down into my comment section and continue to whine and bitch. I'm all about it. I might even reply this time instead of just chucking you a cheeky like. Feel free to tell me I'm a fucking idiot for not believing in Fnatic again, or perhaps choosing against Mels, or not even giving Furia an inside chance. Corralho, all those good stuff. Thank you very much. Bye bye.